안녕하세요.
The imposing Kang Group building rose in the heart of Seoul, reflecting the grandeur of an empire built with coldness and strategic precision. At the top of this hierarchy was Kang Ji-hoon, a feared and admired CEO, known for his sharp intelligence and complete emotional detachment. No employee dared to contradict him. Yoon Ha-ri, on the other hand, was merely a newly hired young woman, a hard-working dreamer who aspired to open her own bakery, but for the time being had accepted a secretarial position to pay her bills. Their fates would cross paths that day, and nothing would ever be the same again. The day began chaotically. Hari arrived late on her first day. Her bus had gotten stuck in traffic, and while rushing through the luxurious lobby of the company, she collided with a man holding a cup of coffee. The hot liquid splashed over his impeccable suit. When Hari raised her eyes, she met Ji-hoon's icy gaze. The silence in the room was deafening. Employees around them held their breath. Ji-hoon frowned, pulling a handkerchief from his pocket and wiping at the dark stain on the fabric. "Do you have any idea what you've just done?" His voice was controlled, but carried an underlying threat. Hari swallowed hard. I'm really sorry. It was an accident." She bowed repeatedly, embarrassment heating her cheeks. He scrutinized her from head to toe, taking his time. "A new face. Do you work here?" "Yes. Today is my first day. I'm a secretary in the planning department. My name is Yoon Ha-ri." Ji-hoon said nothing for a moment. His expression was impossible to decipher. Finally, he released an exasperated sigh. "If you're as incompetent as you are clumsy, you won't last a week." Then, without saying anything further, he walked away, leaving Hari with tense shoulders and a racing heart. Hours passed in a blur. Hari could barely focus on her tasks, repeatedly replaying her fatal mistake in her mind. But the worst was yet to come. At the end of the day, one of the department directors urgently called her over. "President Kang wants to see you in his office, now." Rai's blood ran cold. The CEO wanted to see her? Was she already fired? With trembling legs, she walked up to the top floor, where the luxurious office was located. The glass door opened with a gentle sound, revealing Ji-hoon seated behind a large desk, eyes fixed firmly on the papers before him. He didn't even bother to look up. "Close the door." Hari obeyed, holding her breath. Ji-hoon finally raised his eyes and rested his elbows on the desk, intertwining his fingers. His stare was sharp as a blade. "Yoon Ha-ri, tell me, why did you accept this job?" She blinked, surprised. "Because I need the money." The corners of his lips curved slightly, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. "An honest answer. That's more than I can say for most people here." She bit her lip, unsure how to react. Ji-hoon leaned back in his chair, examining her closely. "Let me guess. You're the type who never gives up? Who fights for every opportunity?" "Yes. I haven't had many choices in life. I work hard because I have to." Ji-hoon was silent for a long moment. Then, without warning, he took a document and pushed it toward her. "Congratulations, Yoon Ha-ri. Starting tomorrow, you'll be my new personal secretary." Rai's mouth dropped open. "What? But I'm just a newbie." Ji-hoon arched an eyebrow. "Are you refusing?" She quickly shook her head. "No, but why me?" He smiled slightly. "Let's see if you really have what it takes to survive here." That was the beginning of something Hari could never have predicted. Now Hari found herself trapped in a game of power, directly under the CEO's severe gaze. But what she didn't realize was that Ji-hoon had already begun to notice something in her, something he himself couldn't quite understand. The following days were a true test for Yoon Ha-ri. Working directly for Kang Ji-hoon meant enduring an intense routine where every detail mattered. He demanded perfection, and any mistake was met with an icy stare and a cutting remark. Yet, to the surprise of many, Hari was not easily intimidated. That morning, as she organized the CEO's schedule, she noticed him watching her from the corner of his eyes. It was a gaze that shouldn't have been there, a look Ji-hoon himself couldn't explain. Ever since she'd become his personal secretary, something inside him had changed, but he couldn't afford to dwell on such thoughts. "Mr. Kang, your meeting with the shareholders was rescheduled to 3 p.m. Hari announced without raising her eyes from the tablet. Ji-hoon frowned. Who authorized that? She hesitated for a moment before responding. Vice President Young Seo-jun. He said it would be more convenient for everyone. Seo-jun's name always triggered an alarm within Ji-hoon. His rival within the company, always eager to undermine his authority. The CEO tapped his fingers on the desk, his expression growing dark. And you just accepted it? Hari finally looked up, confused. I thought it was the right thing to do. Ji-hoon leaned forward, studying her intensely. Next time, consult me first. Don't trust everyone here, especially Seo-jun. Hari nodded quickly. Understood. As she turned her attention back to the schedule, Ji-hoon caught himself observing her again. There was something in the way she worked, dedicated and serious, that made him want to test her to see how far her loyalty would go. Later that day, during a meeting, Hari did something Ji-hoon had not anticipated. When Seo-jun attempted to undermine one of his decisions, she intervened. President Kang made this decision based on solid reports. Changing the schedule now could harm the company's results. Silence filled the room. No one had ever dared confront Seo-jun in such a way. Ji-hoon felt a faint smile threatening to appear on his lips. Interesting, he thought. Hari wasn't just a secretary. When the meeting ended, Ji-hoon approached her. Do you realize what you just did? He asked quietly, his voice filled with curiosity. Hari felt nervous, but stood firm. I only did what I believed was right. His eyes briefly sparkled. Good, keep it up, but be careful. And without another word, he walked away. Ji-hoon was starting to see Hari in a way he had never seen another employee before. But feelings were a luxury he simply could not afford. Since the incident at the meeting, Yoon Hari had become the center of attention at Kang Group. Some admired her courage, while others saw her as overly daring. But the most significant impact was on Kang Ji-hoon. For the first time, he felt something he had never allowed himself, the urge to protect someone. Madame Kang, his mother, had also begun noticing Hari's unsettling presence since. She was not pleased. A secretary? This must be a joke, she said, pursing her lips as she sat in the luxurious dining room of the Kang mansion. You have responsibilities, Ji-hoon. You need a suitable wife, not a girl with no name and no fortune. Ji-hoon calmly set down his chopsticks, but his cold gaze went directly to his mother. You always told me to make decisions based on logic. This conversation isn't logical, it's your whim. Madame Kang narrowed her eyes. Marriage with Park Na-young is a powerful alliance, and Vice President Young Seo-jun is already spreading rumors that you're losing control of the company. Being seen with an employee, that only damages your image further. Ji-hoon did not reply immediately. He knew his mother wouldn't give up easily. But at that moment, more clearly than ever, he realized something. Hari was no longer just an employee to him. At the company, Hari felt the heavy weight of stares and whispers. Ever since she had begun working directly for Ji-hoon, rumors had spread wildly. Was she the CEO's new favorite? Was there something between them? Seo-jun, always opportunistic, approached Hari in the hallway. You're smarter than you look. You managed to catch Ji-hoon's attention quickly. But be careful, he's not the type to get involved. In the end, you'll only get hurt. Hari kept her expression neutral. With all due respect, Vice President Young, I'd rather focus on my work than on gossip. He smirked slightly. We'll see for how long. Later that day, Ji-hoon called Hari into his office. The air between them felt heavier than usual. He should keep his distance, but he couldn't. Are you all right? He asked without his usual sharp tone. Hari blinked in surprise. Yes, of course. Why? Ji-hoon stared at her for a moment before looking away. If you need anything, let me know. Hari felt her heart race. Was the cold and calculating Kang Ji-hoon worried about her? This was dangerous, extremely dangerous. Hari began to realize her feelings for Ji-hoon went beyond mere admiration. But she knew any involvement between them would become a scandal. And Ji-hoon? Was he ready to defy everything he'd always lived for? The atmosphere inside Kang Group was becoming increasingly tense. Yoon Hari, who was once just an invisible employee, now found herself at the center of a silent storm. Everyone seemed to watch her every move, waiting for any misstep to turn her into a target. And the worst part? Her heart could no longer ignore the presence of Kang Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon had changed as well. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't push Ha-ri away from his thoughts. Every time he saw her treated with disdain by other employees, or heard rumors suggesting she'd won his favor, a fury grew inside him. But he couldn't act impulsively. He couldn't show weakness. That evening, a company gala was scheduled. All the high-ranking executives would be there, including Madam Kang and Park Ne-young, the woman Ji-hoon was supposed to marry for an alliance. Ha-ri wasn't meant to attend, yet an anonymous invitation appeared on her desk. Reluctantly, she dressed in a simple yet elegant black gown and went to the event. As soon as she entered, she felt everyone's eyes on her. High society women whispered and laughed, while men stared at her curiously. She clearly did not belong in that world, and they made sure to remind her of it. Ji-hoon, who was busy talking to investors, froze when he saw her. His gaze hardened. "Who invited her?" he murmured, speaking more to himself than to anyone else. But before he could approach her, Madame Kang had already reached Ha-ri. "You certainly have the nerve to come here," the older woman said coldly, holding her wine glass with calculated elegance. Ha-ri maintained her composure. "I received an invitation. I thought it was appropriate to attend." Madame Kang gave a humorless smile. "Understand this. You'll never be accepted in this circle. And Ji-hoon, he's not a man who can afford to follow emotions. He belongs to this company, to this world. If you're smart, you'll step away." Before Ha-ri could respond, a hand grasped hers, strong, warm, and decisive. It was Ji-hoon. "No one makes decisions for me, mother, especially when it comes to who I choose to have by my side." The entire room held its breath. Park Ne-young pursed her lips, visibly embarrassed. Madame Kang closed her eyes for a moment, struggling to contain her anger. And Ha-ri? Her heart was beating so fast she could hardly process what was happening. Ji-hoon had finally taken a stand, but going against his own family and the company's board could have irreversible consequences. Was Ha-ri ready for this? And was Ji-hoon truly willing to sacrifice everything? The night of the gala still echoed throughout Kang Group. Kang Ji-hoon's gesture of holding Yoon-ha-ri's hand in front of everyone had resonated deeply within the company. It was as if the entire Kang Group had felt the shockwaves. Ji-hoon's action had become a topic everyone was discussing. Newspaper articles speculated wildly about the significance of his move. Was the CEO risking everything for a secretary? Ha-ri felt the weight of the situation heavily. It wasn't just her reputation on the line, but Ji-hoon's future as well. She didn't want to be the reason for his downfall. But how could she deny the feelings that had grown so powerfully between them? Inside Ji-hoon's office, the atmosphere was thick with tension. He stared at company reports scattered across his desk, detailing the potential consequences of that night's events. The room felt heavy, almost suffocating, with the looming crisis. Ji-hoon knew the stakes yet. He refused to regret what he'd done. When Ha-ri entered his office hesitantly, Ji-hoon barely looked up, trying to mask his exhaustion. "If you're worried about the rumors," he began, his voice firm, "just ignore them. I'll take care of everything." She shook her head gently, her eyes full of concern. "It's not that simple. Your mother, Park Ne-young, the company, everyone is against this." Ji-hoon slowly rose from his chair, moving deliberately toward her. His gaze was intense. "And you? Are you also against it?" Ha-ri felt her heart quicken painfully. "You don't understand. Your mother, Park Ne-young, the company, everything you built is at risk." Ji-hoon stepped closer, his eyes unwavering. "I asked about you, Ha-ri. What about your feelings?" She felt her throat tighten, yet she forced herself to meet his eyes. "Of course, I don't want to cause your downfall." He gently shook his head, voice firm yet soft. "Forget them for a moment. Tell me what you truly feel." Ha-ri wanted to tell him everything, how she felt overwhelmed yet drawn irresistibly toward him. But before she could speak, the door abruptly opened, shattering their fragile intimacy. Madame Kang stormed in, accompanied by Seo-jun, her face twisted in anger. "Ji-hoon, are you really going to throw everything away for an ordinary employee?" Madame Kang's voice sliced sharply through the air. "If you insist on this madness, You'll no longer be part of this company." Ji-hoon turned calmly, meeting his mother's fierce gaze. "Mother, this is my personal life. You cannot dictate my choices." Seo-jun intervened coldly. "Your personal life affects the entire company. You can't be that selfish." Madam Kang's voice hardened even further. "I'm giving you one last chance, Ji-hoon. End this nonsense, or consider yourself out." Ji-hoon remained quiet for a moment, breathing deeply as the tension mounted. Hari watched him, anxiety gripping her heart. Finally, he raised his head, his eyes steady and clear, showing a resolve she had never seen before. "Then I choose Hari," he declared firmly. Ji-hoon's decision sent shockwaves throughout the Kang group. Was he genuinely prepared to lose everything for love? And would Hari be able to accept the heavy consequences of his choice? Kang Ji-hoon's decision echoed like thunder throughout Kang group. The heir to the business empire had renounced his throne for the love of a woman society would never accept. The press, the shareholders, the members of high society, everyone was in shock. But Ji-hoon didn't care. For the first time, he was the master of his own destiny. However, Hari did not share the same sense of peace. "You gave up everything, Ji-hoon. I can't let you do this." He smiled softly, holding her hands. "I didn't lose anything, Hari. For the first time, I've won." The following days were turbulent. Madam Kang did everything in her power to reverse her son's decision, but Ji-hoon remained steadfast. Seo-jun took over as interim president and quickly realized that without Ji-hoon, the company would lose its direction. In an unexpected turn of events, the shareholders themselves began pressuring for the return of the true heir. That was when Hari made a decision. She would not let Ji-hoon lose everything because of her. She went to Madam Kang. "Madam Kang, I love your son, but if my presence makes him lose everything he has worked for, I'm willing to leave." The matriarch studied the young woman with sharp eyes. "Do you think this is a proof of love? I think it's a proof of respect." Madame Kang remained silent for long seconds. Finally, she sighed. "You are different. You have no ambition, only genuine love. Perhaps that's exactly what Ji-hoon truly needs." When Ji-hoon heard about the conversation, he only smiled. "Did you really think I would let you get away?" And so, everything fell into place. With his mother's unexpected support, Ji-hoon returned to Kang Group, but now on his own terms. Seo-jun was removed, and business alliances were restructured. A year later, Ji-hoon and Hari exchanged vows in a quiet yet deeply meaningful wedding. In a small ceremony, surrounded by friends and a few trusted allies, they promised eternal love. When Ji-hoon looked into the eyes of the woman who had changed his life, he knew everything had been worth it. And when Hari held the hand of the man who had faced the world for her, she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. The billionaire CEO and his employee not only overcame the challenges, but built a new story together.